Don't you hate wrestling with predictability? The garbage man, the sexy boy, boring ass TV? How did I get to work in here? Somebody tell me, please. The WWF is confusing to me. With Vince as mean as you've ever seen. I told old Patterson I'm done here in June. When a sudden voice inside me whispered, Vinny, don't sell your dream so soon. And everywhere I look, there's a Ted with a hand to hold on to. And everywhere I look, there's a place and a promotion who needs you. And it's there you'll book when you're lost out there and you're all alone. And WCW's waiting to carry you home. It's there you'll book. And it's there I'll book. A doobity-ba-ba-ba, headed to Atlanta and listen to this podcast. It's all right, even though it fucking makes fun of everything I've ever done. Backbone Wrestling Network, welcome back to episode 16 of Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? I'm Scott Shiflett, joined as me by always, Logjam, Backbone Crossland, a.k.a. Logan. You got so many nicknames now, Logan, as many you got podcast here on the feed. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
Yeah, I was slightly embarrassed the other day. We were calculating how many pods we had done this year, and pretty sure we have about 172 on the Backbone total. And I've done over 100 of them. So, yeah, there you go. That's been my year. That's just Backbone, too, which has only existed since May. So there's no telling how many I did between January and May. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to start counting that for the new year. I know there's at least 16 of these that I did. However many YouTube roulettes, that's 12. So that's 28. Hidden gems, I did all but one. So that's right. Like 10. So 38. I did a Laugh in Theater, so 39. I'm not really on any other podcasts.
Yeah. You did all the luchas that you would have done, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I did all the luchas. I've done 13 of those, Logan. Gotcha. No, wait. I've done 9 of those, so I'm in the 40s. I think that's respectable.
Gotcha. You've done at least 40 more than February, Cable, so
that is very true, Logan. But yeah, you probably beat me by total podcasts in the middle of February or March. So yeah, well on to you. Hopefully this doesn't burn you out. I always ask you after every one of these pods, you're still going to do this, right? And he's still trucking along, guys. So
it's the thing that keeps me going, Schiff.
I totally feel that, Logan. I totally feel that. So we're diving into the 12/6/99 Nitro. We're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin today. So I'll explain when we see Norman Smiley later. So show kicks off. We got Mean Gene in the ring already. He welcomes out Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett comes out. He grabs the mic and says, "Give me the damn microphone, slap nuts." He said, "Let me get this perfectly clear. He is the chosen one. He doesn't need the powers to be or the outsiders. All he needs is the WCW title around his waist." Jeff says how Dustin Rhodes has screwed him. Loud asshole chants break out of this. Jarrett says, "I'll tell you what, Dustin, I see it this way. I will end your career at Starrcade." Jarrett challenges him to a bunkhouse brawl, and Jeff says Dustin's old fat daddy created the match and said in DC he will make an example out of him. Jarrett then challenges the whole backstage to come out and fight him. He name drops Bret Hart, Goldberg, and then like the real best wrestler on the roster, Mike Tenay. Jarrett asks where Tenay is, and Gene says in the back. Jarrett threatens to hit Gene and says he wants to hear my next hit, which I thought was pretty funny. Tenay comes out and says he will take matters into his own hands. Jarrett says he don't need any more lawsuits. Jarrett says, "Let's file this as a misunderstanding," which I thought was pretty funny. Then Jarrett says, "Hit my music." Tenay, like a big dummy, turns around and Jarrett attacks him and puts him in the figure four. Goldberg, I guess, was taking a shit when Jarrett was calling him out. Finally comes down to save Tenay, and Goldberg screams out, "You're next." Pretty hot opening segment, Logan. I just wish they would get away from this Tenay stuff because it's not like he's going to get retribution versus Jarrett, but seems like we might be getting Jarrett and Goldberg tonight, which Jarrett catches a lot of shit for his WCW run, but this run so far has been pretty interesting, and he hasn't been annoying. So I want to see where that maybe it tips in 2000, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I have a feeling once he becomes like the focus, he might get a little bit more annoying. But yeah, he's been good in his role so far. I'm starting to learn why Tenay hates Jarrett so much in TNA in the future, because they obviously have this somewhat rivalry here. Always fun seeing Tenay get absolutely blasted by a guitar and getting the figure four locked on. So definitely a fun time there. I think the bunkhouse brawl has potential at Starrcade. I'm not sure Dustin has much on the tank, but I think that's the type of match he's probably best suited for at this point. And, I think that's the style that kind of Jarrett's probably best at, is kind of brawling around and stuff like that. So I think that one has potential, but Goldberg and Jarrett is an interesting match. We'll see if we get that later and how interesting it ends up being. But definitely a hot segment and kind of a hot way to start the show for sure.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like maybe like because of what happens in January with sadly losing literally half of the roster that Russo has been pushing through retirements, quitting, or injuries. Like Jarrett had to be bumped up to that upper echelon pretty quickly. But I did read because this week in '99, Logan, Russo did a Wrestling Observer Live, and he did say that the people he wanted to push in 2000 were Benoit and Jarrett as like main eventers. Mm-hmm. So I think if he had like other big main eventers to bounce around with, it might have been better than what happens. But it's just like really shit luck all around with what happened, sadly. It makes me wonder, especially because, spoiler alert, listeners, I liked this episode. Logan told me he only hated Russo once on this. It's usually me telling Logan that I hate Russo. But I think we're just coming to expect like shit that might not make a lot of sense. But one thing you can always say about Russo, he will have everyone doing something. And I like how the heels and baby faces in the main event have each other's backs. That's like one thing I've always loved. Like WCW was always good at this, even going back to NWA when I did Crock and Roll. So it's nice to see that. And we see that a lot tonight in the main event, but we see like it's still strange that like Sting and Luger is like sectioned off from these guys, and like even DDP to an extent, which we'll see later as well. So very just very interesting. But we go to the front desk, which me and you both hate, and it's with Tony and Bobby going over the matches tonight. And I'm going to go over these matches. This is a pay-per-view worthy card that we're going to get tonight. But as Logan said, the matches are like 10 minutes long combined. So we got Bret Hart versus the Total Package for the world title. Kevin Nash versus Chris Benoit. Sting versus Scott Hall. DDP is returning, and his match is against Sid. We haven't seen him since Mayhem. And in the dumb match of the night, Roddy Piper, who can just fuck off
for all intents and purposes. Like, I'm so done with him, Logan. But he is a special ref tonight in his own match versus Creative Control, which is also an I Quit match. I mean, 4 out of those 5 matches that they announced aren't bad. Like, obviously that I Quit Creative Control match is dumb, but like, as we'll see, like, I think this is one of the times where like I'm wrong as a fan, which I can admit when I'm wrong, and it's because I'm in too deep because the crowd fucking loved the Piper match which we'll get to eventually.
Yeah. So when you tally gimmick matches, would you count that twice since it's a special guest referee and an I Quit match?
No, I just tallied it once, so we'll go over those. We only had 5. We only had 5 tonight, but yeah, I thought about it and I was like, I'll just do it once. But it's just like it's like a hat on a hat type thing. It's like it's like a 3 stages of hell match, in my opinion. Like that wouldn't be 3 gimmick matches. That's just one gimmick match, like that's thrown in there.
True. I get you. But yeah, like you said, pay-per-view level card for sure. Maybe a shittier like B-level pay-per-view, but a pay-per-view nonetheless. Especially if given time, it could be a solid pay-per-view. If the matches were given time, obviously that's not the case, and it's going to involve a lot of interference. As much as you kind of said, I only hated Russo kind of once on this episode. It's still this episode's still not great, but I think, like you said, we're kind of used to it being worse than this one is. So this one kind of shined a little bit, I guess, but there's definitely still some stuff that is very angering and quite annoying for sure. But yeah, seems like a pretty solid card from the jump. But and I will say they at least didn't run down the card to start the show and then do this. So they kind of changed it up a little bit. At least they just kind of introduced where we were, went to the first segment, and then they did this. So usually what makes us so mad is they kind of somewhat run down the card, go to the segment, and then run down the card again. So it was a little different this time.
Yeah, I'm maybe it's like a fine tuning thing. We'll have to see with the next Nitro, which our next episode will be Thunder, which the way Russo hyped it up might actually be a good Thunder for once, but we shall see. So we go to the back and we go with, I think they're one of my MVPs of the show so far, Logan. I know you enjoy them, but I just love them because of how dumb they are. It's Vito, Tony Mamaluke is back, and Johnny the Bull. Vito steps on Tony's feet and he says, "Did I tell you to touch me?" Because like he was just so close to him. Tony says, "Tonight's the night, no more screw ups." Tony says he wants Lash and Disco to meet the boss tonight. Tony then grabs Vito's hat and hits him with it. And then Vito tells Johnny, who is basically quiet the whole time, "You always get me in trouble," which I don't know why. I love how every time something bad happens, he blames Johnny, which the spaghetti incident was their fault, but it just made me laugh. We have a commercial break. Then we see highlights of last week of Finley just beating the ever-loving piss out of Brian Knobbs and cutting his hair. And then we see Brian Knobbs in the woods yelling for Finley. And then Finley yells at him and says, "You are late." Finley gives him new clothes and says, "We'll be in better shape." And it's like I missed something where they're like cool now because that we went over how like Finley was beating him so bad that it was kind of uncomfortable, Logan. And now like it's his drill sergeant. Just very interesting. What did you think of the Johnny the Bull and Vito and Tony and then this weird Finley segment?
Yeah, I feel like we missed something on Saturday night or something like that happened here, but I thought they were about to fucking brawl in the woods. I was kind of getting excited. I was interested in a possible like outdoor in the woods kind of brawl between Finley and Knobbs, but seemingly he's going to train him to be better and be good enough to beat Norman Smiley eventually for the hardcore title. So definitely interesting to where, like you said last week, he beat the absolute dog shit out of him, and now apparently they're cool and he's going to coach him. But yeah, like you said, the Mamalukes, I don't know that they've been named that yet, but that's eventually the name of the group or whatever. But they're always entertaining. They're one of my favorites as well. But yeah, Vito constantly trying to act like he has things, kind of in line and kind of things ahead of him that he knows how he can pull off and stuff like that. But he's kind of just a bumbling idiot. And whether he is or not, they kind of treat poor Johnny the Bull like he's kind of special. I'll put it that way.
But it's always funny because Johnny's always the one that's like, "Hey, we got to get back on task," and Vito's like, "It's fine, it's fine." Like when they were when they were in there with Gene, he's like, "We got 3 hours," and Johnny was like, "Let's do it now." So it's
Definitely comes into play tonight too, as well.
1000%. So match 1 tonight is Norman Smiley versus Rhonda Singh, who we saw debut in the Mud match last Nitro for the Hardcore title. Norman comes out with a Mark Chimura jersey and a cheesehead because those were in Green Bay. I just know Mark Chimura as being accused of rape but acquitted, and it says that on his Wikipedia that he said he did things at the after prom party that married men shouldn't do. So great job, Norman. You could have chose Brett Favre, who is also a piece of shit. I don't know. Maybe Desmond Howard.
I don't know if there were too many good guys on that team, but yeah.
I was trying to think of the wide receiver. Freeman. You could have did a Freeman jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Antonio Freeman. So Norman calls out Fit and says he's lucky he's not there tonight. He's going to kick his booty. Norman throws out a challenge for the Hardcore title. Out comes Rhonda Singh. She already has like the Hardcore plunder, and she starts throwing it in the ring. She gets in and starts beating Norman with the trash lid and then the trash can. Then she beats him with the cookie sheet, which sounds amazing. Norman is then hit with the kendo stick. It's just all Rhonda. She's beating his ass right now. Norman gets up and hits Rhonda with the trash can. Norman grabs the fire extinguisher from under the ring, but Rhonda is able to hit Norman when he slides back in. She misses a charge into the corner, and Norman starts the big wiggle, but Rhonda picks up the fire extinguisher and blasts him with it. And then they had set up a table in the corner like you would in a wrestling video game, and Norman reversed an Irish whip, and he whipped Rhonda into it, and like that broke the table. She's out. He pins Rhonda, and it's over. Basically a nothing match, but we'll just get through these next few segments, then I'll let you talk about everything. We see Maestro playing the piano, and Symphony is with him. So she does return Logan. I thought she was gone. He says a piano key is out. He is fixing the key. David comes up and kidnaps Symphony and makes it so that the piano top falls on Maestro, and has his ass whooped, which is an ongoing theme we'll see tonight. And then Powers That Be is in the back with Laparca and Psychosis. He said Liger has it in his contract, a return match with Hoovy for the IWGP Light Heavyweight title, but Hoovy has a broken arm and can't wrestle. Ben says y'all are Hoovy's friends. Ben says Psychosis and Laparca have to fight in the office, and whoever walks out will face Liger. Laparca says no. And then, of course, Psychosis blindsides him and like throws him in the wall and beats him down. Psychosis is able to escape and will defend the title. We then see Bret Hart arriving to the arena. And Logan, a lot happened there, surprisingly, but like we got a hardcore match with the woman, Maestro, David Flair, Maestro still being David Flair's bitch, and Laparca and Psychosis, who we just found out were best friends on Thunder, have already broken up.
Yeah, Psychosis is the one luchador I think that really needed to keep the mask on. He is a very ugly human being. So, but yeah, that was a fun little way to decide who was going to be in a match since Hoovy was injured, having kind of a brawl in the office. So, definitely a fun little step there. The Maestro stuff continues to be kind of absurd with David Flair. I wonder if they're ever going to fight. They don't seem to ever be kind of leading to a match or anything, but it's just constantly kidnapping Symphony and beating his ass. And the hardcore match, I haven't particularly hated any of the hardcore matches so far. I think, I made the note. I said as much as I'm sure Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan really hated being there at this point, especially Tony. I feel like he constantly shits on like any era past a certain point. In WCW, and like he just knew it was like a sinking ship, and he was just waiting for the day when it kind of officially sunk or whatever. But as much as they probably kind of hated being there, it sounded like they had the most fun in the world calling this match. They were laughing the whole time, busting jokes, and it just seemed like they had a really good time calling this one and kind of laughing at the absurdity that was Smiley and Rhonda Singh. But fun, not technically good, of course, a lot of weapon shots, but when the commentary seems to be having a good time with it, it makes it a little easier to swallow. But yeah, not a good match, but fun, I'll say.
Yeah, like you bringing out the announcers, we definitely see that later tonight with the Nash and Benoit match, where they're like, you can tell like Hall is just like dogging all over Heenan, and like Tony's losing it, which like I said, we'll get to, but yeah, it definitely seems like they're having a good time. So we come back from commercial. We see Luger knocking on Liz's door, and she's like, "Go away." He says, "Tonight's the night we always talked about, the world title match." Luger says he has champagne, and Liz opens the door. We then see Tony Marinara reading, and someone knocks on the door and says, "Pizza." Tony opens the door, and it's Disco and Lash. We then go to the ring for match 2, which is Jushin Liger versus Psychosis for the IWGP Light Heavyweight title. We see how Jushin Liger lost last week with Hoovy hitting him with a bottle of tequila while Buzzkill distracted the ref. It was convoluted as fuck. I said it right that time, Logan.
There you go.
So out comes Psychosis holding the title, which we didn't even see the title last week, Logan. We never saw the title. So match starts off collar, elbow, and tie up. And then Psychosis chokes Liger and stops. Liger's able to get out of that and gets a headlock, and Psychosis pushes him off the ropes. Liger does a cartwheel around Psychosis and hits a beautiful head scissors. Liger ducks a clothesline, and then Liger dumps Psychosis over the top rope. We then see Buzzkill in the crowd, and he's wandering around. Like we don't even see the match. It's like Liger stops while this is happening, because the next thing we see is Liger hitting a baseball slide. Liger then goes up to the top rope and dives onto Psychosis on the floor, which is a lot of air that he gets. It's a long way down as well. Liger rolls in the ring. Psychosis finally is in the ring. He gets on the ring apron and he drops Liger throat first on the rope. Psychosis hits a missile dropkick and gets 2. This pisses off Psychosis, and he pushes Charles Robinson, and Charles pushes him back. Psychosis then throws Liger out of the ring, and Irish whips into a safety rail. They both get back in the ring, and Psychosis gets Liger on the top rope, and he hits a Hurricane Rana from the top, which honestly, Logan, I thought was the ending. This gets it too. Psychosis Irish whips Liger, and Liger ducks a clothesline, and he hits his rolling kick that is like a soccer kick, and it just looks amazing. Then he hits a tilt-a-roll backdrop, and then Liger then tries the surfboard, but it seemed like there was some type of miscommunication because Psychosis just breaks it immediately. And then it's a little wonky because Liger gets like a rolling pin, and we get a W right off of that. It's like they just go straight to the ending. Liger wins. Then after that, Parker comes down and hits Psychosis with a chair. So a lot happened there in that match, Logan. And even with the Tony stuff, which is another show long angle, so is the Liz and Luger thing. So what do you think of these show long angles kicking off in that match? Because it's probably honestly the best match we have tonight.
Yeah, really solid match. Some good cruiserweight action. They actually let him kind of cook for a little bit. I like that top rope Frankensteiner you mentioned. The capo kick that he hits was really, really awesome and kind of nasty at the same time. He hit one of those on Thunder, I think, that was pretty brutal as well.
We really like those.
Yeah. But he wins his belt back, and obviously Parker gets some revenge after with a steel chair. So, solid cruiserweight match. Tony Marinara is so stupid. Why did he answer the door? He has no backup in that entire room. Like, what an idiot. Like, don't answer the door. You're by yourself. Your 2 bodyguards are gone. Because it could be anybody, especially the 2 guys that you really don't want it to be. But yeah, Lex continues to be hilarious, just begging Liz for forgiveness. Wants her to forgive him for everything he said and done to her over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So absolutely hilarious there. And she almost seems to give into it at one point, but we'll see where that goes the rest of the night.
Yes, we will. And then another show long angle. We see the Nitro girls playing poker, and they're talking shit about Spice, how she's getting all this makeup put on her. Vito and Johnny the Bull show up, and they ask where Lash and Disco are. The Nitro girls are like, no idea. Vito sees them playing poker and offers them to play strip poker and says he will teach them how to play poker. Johnny says, we got to go. We got to go find Lash and Disco, and Vito tells him to shut up. We then see Luger is asking Liz for help tonight. He says that he needs her tonight. He says he's like a bagel without the cream cheese when they're not together, which I thought was a pretty funny line. Liz says if he's done yet, and Luger says, no, I'm not done. Just amazing. Just God, like, I know like Luger's shit in the ring at this time, but God damn it, Logan. When he said that he was the bagel without the cream cheese, I lost it.
What a fucking artiste and an auteur, old Lex Luger is at this point. But yeah, just hilarious stuff. Trying to do anything to get Liz to be back in his corner. But yeah, we set up the strip poker game. A little bit better performance here by the Nitro girls. Still not great, but I think they had a little bit better people to play off of. I think Vito and Bull, or at least Vito's pretty charismatic in this role. So they had a little bit better of an actor to play off of. So, but yeah, we're in for some strip poker. So we'll see how that ends up going.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume not well for Johnny the Bull and Vito, but that's just because we would be so lucky if we could see Stacy nude. That's right, I said it. We then see Maestro for Symphony, and he's screaming out "Symphony" over and over while he's yelling for her. We then see Mean Gene with Mona, while the whole time while while Mona is talking, and like when Gene's asking her a question, he's just looking at her tits. Mona says up here and like pushes his face upwards. She says tonight she will take out both Medusa and Evan. This brings us to match 3, which is a 3-way dance between Evan, Courageous, Medusa, and Mona. Now, Logan, they changed this because originally on Thunder, I don't know why I care so much about this, but I fucking do. It was just if Mona wins, she's in the title match. But then they decided to Russify it up where everyone has a fucking stipulation now. If Mona wins, she's in the title match. If Medusa wins, she's in the title match. Spoiler alert, she was already in the fucking title match, Logan. And if Evan wins, no one gets a shot. While before it was just if Mona wins, she's in. Like,
why would
that's
Evan
all you need.
even
You don't
participate? Like, yeah.
Yeah, like, why would Medusa participate? Like, so here we are. So Medusa and Evan come out together because they be fucking. And then Mona comes out by herself. The match starts and Evan basically tries to talk to both ladies, but then Medusa tells Evan she has this and get out of the ring. Evan joins on commentary as Mona and Medusa start off. Mona hits a nice arm drag to Medusa. The Medusa does her shitty kicks that we both hate, Logan. Evan said he would want to roll around the ring with Medusa. And then like Medusa hit a kick, but Mona was able to get away and hits a crossbody and then a missile drop kick. Evan sees this and runs to the ring and he pulls off Mona. And then I guess like Mona gets trapped in the void because Medusa then inside just cradles Evan, and that's how she wins. This was a real nothing match. The only thing is great about this is Jarrett hits the ring and attacks Evan from last week on Thunder. And then Medusa kicks Jarrett and he brains Medusa with a guitar shot. So like I'm sure that makes him a good guy in your eyes, Logan. So and then after this, Jarrett gets on the mic and says, "Goldberg, you want to step into my spotlight, step into my world," which ends up being his theme music for in TNA. He challenges Chrome Dome to a match tonight, and we'll stop right there, Logan, because that was a lot. I don't hate Medusa as much as you do, but she's so goddamn annoying right now. Like, it's not even funny, and it's only going to get worse. Like, I know it's going to get worse because I know what's coming.
Yeah. I was just saying, I kind of have an inkling of what's coming as well, just based on some stuff I've listened to recently, and then just kind of remembering where the cruiserweight title kind of goes from here. But yeah, she's terrible. I'm probably a little harder on her early in her career, but at this point, she is truly bad. There's no defense of her whatsoever at this point. Just not good in the ring at all. The kicks are terrible. Mona completely outclasses her, and it ends up kind of just being a match between the two of them for the most part. Obviously, Courageous comes in and saves Medusa at the end, and she ends up actually pinning him, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, just this makes you want Mona to be in the Cruiserweight Championship match and maybe even win it at Starrcade, but unfortunately, that's not how it goes. And then, yeah, Jarrett, I'm not sure we needed another promo by him, but obviously he just throws out the challenge to Goldberg, which obviously Goldberg will probably accept. But I do like that he got the guitar shot in on Medusa, so he's got my favor for at least tonight.
Right? Like he's doing great. He's doing great. So then I just love Jarrett calling him Chrome Dome. Another thing that popped me. We then go to the back and we see Lash and Disco, and they have Tony tied up, and they said they have a surprise for Tony tonight. And then we go back to Liz, and she tells Lex yes. Lex says, "Yes, we are a team tonight." Liz says, "Let me pour you the champagne," and Lex gives it to her, and she pours it all over Lex and leaves. We have a commercial break. Maestro is still looking for Symphony. How big is this fucking arena? Screaming, "Where are you, my darling?" And then like we see David in the background, like he has her like in a chokehold, like, and it's like he walked past and didn't see it. I don't know. Then they go to Vampiro and Jerry Only. Vampiro still has Oklahoma's hat. They will face Oklahoma and Dr. Death tonight. Vampiro says he loves bleeding and says Dr. Death and OK are walking down a dark path, and tonight the nightmare begins. So, yeah, just a lot of stuff happening right now, Logan. I obviously know how to say Vampiro's name. That's just how Oklahoma says it. But talk about a feud that I wish would just fuck off and die. It's this Vampiro and Jerry Only versus Dr. Death and Oklahoma feud.
Yeah, obviously I think we've kind of established that there's going to be a match with some of them at Starrcade, so we get it at least till then, so at least a couple more weeks for us. So yeah, that's one I would like to see kind of go away. Like I said, Oklahoma is probably better suited to kind of be on the commentary table for about a match per show and kind of shit on Shivani and Heenan the whole time, because I think we've actually kind of somewhat enjoyed him in that role, but we're going to get a little bit more of him than we probably bargained for tonight. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the Lash and Disco can just making Tony's life miserable is fun. And then, like you said, Liz seems to kind of agree to manage Lex later, but then pour champagne on his head. So obviously kind of agrees, but then is like, no, never mind. Fuck you. And then, yeah, Maestro continues to look for a Symphony. I kind of saw where this was headed once he kind of started going into like the catacombs of the arena. Obviously he's going to end up in a bad spot eventually, but yeah, some interesting segments for sure. But yeah, this Vampiro versus Dr. Death feud couldn't get over quicker, I would say.
Yeah, I've just like had enough of it. Like, I really hope it doesn't stretch to Starrcade, but I'm starting to feel like it might be. And this leads us to match 4 tonight, Logan. Dr. Death in Oklahoma versus Jerry Only and Vampiro. So Oklahoma has a wireless mic and will be commentating the match. He says, "You boys can back off and he'll take it from here." And then he says, Dr. Death was a four-time Big Eight college athlete, which was one of the conferences before what we have now. Vampiro and Jerry Only come out. Oklahoma has a great line. Says, "Here comes the freaks." He says, "He has my hat, but not for long." Oklahoma says he wants in, and Dr. Death agrees. Oklahoma screams "Boomer Sooner." And then, like, he says, Oklahoma has a fire he's never seen before. And then Vampiro literally takes a step towards it, to Oklahoma, and he tags to Dr. Death. Dr. Death kills Vampiro with a clothesline, then hits him with a bunch of football tackles. Dr. Death puts on a toe hold. And then Oklahoma wants in, and Dr. Death tags to Oklahoma. Oklahoma messes up the toe hold, and then he just like hits Vampiro in the nuts. Then he picks up Vampiro, but Vampiro hits a big boot on Oklahoma. We get a tag to Dr. Death and Jerry Only. Jerry Only tries a sunset flip, but Dr. Death just picks him up and hits a gorilla press slam. Jerry Only tags a Vampiro, who hits a missile drop kick. And then Oklahoma drops down and he hits Jerry Only with the chair. And then Doc dodges a kick from Vampiro and hits a power slam and gets 2. Doc misses a charge in the corner and Vampiro hits a nice side kick. But then Oklahoma runs over in like slow motion and hits Vampiro with his boot. Doc hits 2 clotheslines, then tags to Oklahoma. Oklahoma goes to the first rope and hits an elbow drop, and that's how it ends, Logan. He grabs his hat. It's just a horrible match. Like, Oklahoma is funny in spots, but it's like, what are we doing? And I did read in that Observer thing, I guess at one point Oklahoma was supposed to have like Bell's palsy. Like, like Jim Ross has, but they decided like standards and practice made him go away from that. So that's when they say like, remember when he got the barbecue bath last Nitro and he says it's been healed?
Yeah.
That's what it's from. I had no idea what it's about. Like, I guess I didn't see enough of his face to realize. I just thought like he was doing the JR face, which obviously he was, but it's just really mean spirited in that way. But like making fun of his commentating, I feel is pretty funny because he's been pretty good at it. Like,
Yeah.
how he just repeats himself and everything. Because you know, I love JR, but that's what he did. Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so there we go. But
famous calls are from like that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like the idea of him commentating the match while he was in it. He had like the headset on.
And then it went out. I forgot to mention it went out halfway through the match.
Well, yeah, he gets the shit kicked out of his head and it flies off. So, and then I think once he gets it back on, it kind of stops working. So yeah, seeing him get his clock cleaned by the big boot, but from I think it was Vampiro, was pretty funny. There was a pretty nice missile drop kick that Vampiro hit at one point on Dr. Death that I thought was a pretty solid move. But yeah, not much going on. Like you said, Oklahoma wins with like the middle rope elbow that looked not devastating whatsoever. But yeah, I mentioned listening to that Tony Schiavone podcast about future Nitro that we'll talk about. Yeah, they were talking about the standards and practices thing with Oklahoma, and then some other stuff Russo was doing during the time, and how he kind of blamed Turner and standards and practices for why he couldn't do more cutting edge stuff, and why the TV was not as good as what he was doing back in WWE or WWF at the time. So he's really starting to blame a lot of people for maybe his shortcomings. But yeah, there was definitely something in there about Oklahoma being a little less offensive, for sure. I did hear that.
Can you say what they mentioned in the standards and practices? What else, or will it be spoilers for?
I would have to listen back to it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I can try and listen back to it and report back on the next one.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm just real interested, and yeah, God bless you for listening to that. I tried to listen to that with Tony, and I don't know. I just couldn't. And I love Tony, and I did like Conrad podcast at one point, but yeah. So anyway, back to the pod. So we go backstage to the strip poker. The Nitro girls say that like they need to look, like the Nitro girls said they need to look for Disco, and like they're like, Vito's like, it's fine. And like every time like Johnny and Vito talk to each other, the Nitro girls cheat, because like the girls was like, there's Disco over there, and they'll look and like they'll trade cards and everything. So they start to beat the guys at strip poker, and it just shows how they're dum-dums. So then we see Tony tied up, and Disco is dumping some liquid into a bucket. Disco says, I was going to pay you, but then you made me look stupid, and you made Lash look stupid. Now I'm going to make you look stupid. And Lash pulls out feathers, and that's when it clicked in my head they were going to tar and feather him, because it looked like syrup at first, Logan. I did not realize that was tar. So then we see Lex walking, and we see Brett walking. We go to commercial break. But I'm not going to lie, like, Disco looks better in like that sweater that he has on. It makes him look more buff than when he actually has a shirt off wrestling. That makes sense?
Yeah. No, I definitely get it. Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was tar or like some kind of molasses, or like, like you said, syrup, or something like that. But yeah, definitely an interesting segment. And yeah, like you said, I kind of picked up there that they were about to tar and feather the poor bastard.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay. And then we got Mean Gene with the Outsiders, and Mean Gene asked if he's scared of Sting, and Scott Hall was like, oh, I'm so scared. And then Scott Hall said, like, the TV title, Sting is going to go in the trash. And then we hear Scott Hall versus Benoit in a ladder match at Starrcade. And then Nash says Chris might not make it to Starrcade because he is going to beat his ass tonight so bad in the match, so that Scott will have a night off. Instead of leading to the Nash and Chris Benoit match, we go to match 5, which is Bret Hart versus Lex Luger for the world title. Now, Bret's out first, Logan. Now this makes sense in the storyline for what happens during the match, but how do you feel? Champion should always come out last, right?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. It's
Mhm.
just a little thing that pisses me off. I know it's basically not really done anymore, but whatever. Bringing back Triple H and Tony Khan. I'm sure they do. I just don't remember. So Brett's out first, then Luger comes out. Luger looks unenthusiastic because Liz isn't with him. I thought it was like the boo-boo face that like Sasha Banks has, or sorry,
Yeah.
Mercedes Moné has, but this wasn't it. It was just like him thrown off because Liz wasn't out there with him. So like you see Luger like talking to Brett, like, give me a second, and they have like the spotlight pose, and he rips his shirt off, but then he has trouble getting his tearaway pants off, and Brett just attacks him, which I thought was great. And it's just like Brett beating down Luger in the corner. Brett does his headbutt in the nuts to Luger. He throws Luger out of the ring, then battle on the aisle. Brett breaks the count and then rolls out, still beating Luger around the ring. Luger reverses the Irish whip, and Brett hits the guardrail. Then like Luger tries to like throw Brett into the ring post, but he reverses it. Brett throws Luger in the ring and runs his head across the ring rope. Brett starts working over the leg to soften up for the sharpshooter. When Brett went for the backbreaker, Luger raked the eyes. Liz comes out, and then Sting comes out after her. Sting grabs Liz and says, "You're going to represent garbage or me?" And Liz leaves with Sting, Logan. I'm shocked. While this, Luger was watching it and was distracted. Brett hits the Russian leg sweep and then gets the sharpshooter, and Brett wins. A pretty shocker right there. I mean, I thought Liz and Sting were already together, but this shows they're truly together now. This was the main event of like the second hour of Nitro. What they call these the main events, but a pretty decent match. They're doing a good job of making Brett being a fighting champion. He's had a title match every every Nitro since winning the title. So I think it's like showing him that he's like the fighting champion that made him what made people love him when he first won the WWF title.
Yeah, it is nice to see him kind of be a fighting champion, like you said. Obviously that would be how Brett would want it. I mean, I think that's kind of like always the champion he's been. Like kind of like you were just mentioning, like in WWF, he was always wanting to defend the title on TV as much as possible. So, but he starts hot in the match. He attacks him before he can get his tracksuit off. So he has his like pants half dangling off for the first little bit of the match because Brett kind of assaults him from behind. Again, like you said, Liz kind of comes out and seems to be with Lex for a little bit. She follows Sting pretty willingly, but I feel like he kind of pulls her back a little bit. So I don't know if she really went in the first place kind of willingly, but she seemed after that to kind of walk back with him. But but yeah. And he kind of lays down the ultimatum of like but she either needs to represent Lex or go with him, and obviously she goes away. And Lex pretty much immediately taps to the sharpshooter, so not much defense in that. But it's probably because Lex's legs can't bend that much anymore, so it was probably excruciating and devastating to his very very stiff body to go through that type of pain.
Yeah, they probably would have exploded and sent shit to the like 15th row, and it just would have been like liquid and like fluid. So then we have the powers that be. They're in the back, and it's Henning, Curly Bill, and Creative Control. Powers that be is like, what do I want to do with you? Kurt vouches for Curly Bill, saying how great of a person he is, and Powers that be says, you don't have anything that you want to bring me to the table. And Curly Bill says, I got one word for you in my gimmick, and just says Shane. So I get, and Powers B says, well, it's not worse than Vincent, which, this guy just made his living by being digs at other people. Like he was Virgil in WWF, then Vincent, and now Shane. So it looks like he's part of this ragtag group. Rhonda asks who she has to see about an opportunity with the powers that be. And they say right there, spoiler, nothing else comes from this tonight unless something happens on Thunder or next Monday. And then we see Midnight walking backstage looking for Harlem Heat. And then we have a commercial break. And then we have La Parka with the powers that be. He calls him Skeletor and said he's named the official chairman. When he cracks his knuckles, that means it's his cue to take out the wrestler. And then right after that, Harlem Heatland shows up, and powers that be says they will make it up to them. They will get a tag title shot at Starrcade. He then cracks his knuckles, and the parka hits Booker T with a chair, and then everyone else in the ring beats down Harlem Heat. And then we see Roddy Piper. He shows up, and he's just ranting about dumb shit. It's not even worth saying. It's just like he fucking snorted coke before he got out of the limo and started ranting about how Vince Russo had like a zit on his ass or something. It was dumb. Like Roddy Piper, out of all this stuff, Logan, is the most like turn the channel heat I have with someone, and that's saying something.
Yeah, he's pretty brutal at this point. He's just trying to do the wacky old man gimmick, and he's not doing it very particularly well. But like you said, he just has these like little insider jokes and like, sees what he can get away with. And it's
yes,
like,
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. He's trying to act like the cool uncle or something like that. But, the La Parka hired as the chairman of the board. So definitely going to do some dirty work for the old powers that be. So, and he cracks poor Harlem Heat with the chair before or after they get the title shot at Starrcade. So, but yeah, Curly Bill once again getting a McMahon name is completely ridiculous. But and then poor Rhonda Singh coming in asking for an opportunity when she probably isn't going to get anything in that realm, nor is any woman in the company other than apparently Medusa. Do we think Curly Bill was a shot at anyone? Do you think that was like a Bill Watts like shot or something like that? Or because it seems like every other gimmick, like you said, is a shot at somebody. So do we think Curly Bill was a shot at anybody?
Well, now I do, Logan, because like I haven't thought of it. I just thought it was because like he doesn't have any hair. But I would like to think Curly Bill because like Bill Watts was a fucking redneck anyway. So yeah, it sounds good. We just made it lore, Logan. We stamped it as lore. So that's what it is now. I'll update his Wikipedia later, or a listener can. I'm looking at you, Grooney. Update Virgil's Wikipedia for the Curly Bill thing.
Mike Jones. Who?
Yeah, exactly. Who, when they found out, was actually older than he really was. So what a carny. Carny to everyone his whole life. Hopefully he's having meat sauce in heaven. So we then see David Flair and Stephanie backstage. He's literally being crazy and just holding her hostage. He's just yelling, like, play the music, play the music. I don't know where we're going with this. Then we see Jerry Flynn with Mean Gene, who Jerry Flynn's like sort of becoming like a highlight for me because like I just want to see him whoop ass. So they talk about the block match from last week and how it was Jerry Flynn in the wall and Berlin made a mistake last week interfering. Jerry Flynn issues another open challenge for the block. Hopefully if they do this, Logan, it's not as long as last week's, which really was like testing everyone and we could loudly hear the boring chants when they were fighting backstage. So hopefully it's a quicker match, which we'll get to with it. And then we have we go to the ring and it's match 6 and it's Asia versus Midnight. So Revolution comes out first. They're all now wearing black and it's Black Army fatigues. Asia actually goes on the top rope and does a moonsault and lands on her feet, which I didn't know she was athletic, Logan. I just thought she was like a fitness model. That's pretty fucking athletic. Like just to be able like to do that. And I really like that. Probably the best thing in the match, sadly, because Midnight doesn't really know what the fuck she's doing and neither does Asia. Shane says, cut the music and says, Milwaukee, we got a problem. We will pick with you tonight. Shane says he has a constitutional right to do whatever he wants to the flag, which doesn't make sense if it's a sovereign nation, Logan, but I digress. He said Revolution didn't turn their back on the country. The fans turned their back on them. We get loud asshole chants again. Shane says it's your fault. Shane shows off the real flag of the Revolution, which is just a black flag with a white circle, and inside the white circle is this black R in the middle. That looks like, no offense, Logan, what your kid might have drew the R as. Like, that's it's not the best, okay? And then Perry gets on the mic and says they are like the Black Panthers, power to the people, and the Revolution is like, what the fuck is going on? Then after that, Midnight tolls, and the lights go out, and she pops in the ring like she's Sabu. And then instead of like jumping on the offense, Asia just punches her. Midnight then hits a drop kick and gets 2. Asia kicks Midnight and hits a nice snap suplex that gets just 1. By this point in the match, both women kip up, which Spoiler alert, is something I've always wanted to be able to do, which I'll never be able to do. And then Midnight kicks Asia and then puts her in like a double chicken wing. That's a pinning combination with their legs and just got a 2 from there. Asia hits a nice double underhook suplex that gets two. Then she hits a snapmare after that and misses an elbow drop. And then Midnight hits a suplex and the ref is counting at 3. The ref is pulled out and Revolution beats down Midnight. Does the Harlem Heat come out? Nope, because they got their ass beat in the back. Out comes Jim Duggan, and they have a better 2x4 this week because when he actually hits, they do a better job of protecting it because when it doesn't like move like a pool foam toy when it hits someone this time, and they're like doing the Triple H where he puts the hand over the sledgehammer head when he hits them. Duggan fights off Revolution until the numbers advantage takes over. Shane knocks out Duggan with his cast, and they plant the Revolution flag over Duggan, and that brings that to a mercifully end because Duggan can fuck off. Like, he doesn't need to be relevant in end of 1999 WCW, especially fighting off the Revolution, who's supposed to be like badasses.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he needs to not be on TV. I mean, I know they're trying to kind of do him a favor because, you know, he beat the cancer and all that and kind of give him a job and keep him on TV and relevant and all that. But I think his days are his best days are behind him. Probably shouldn't be featured, especially in a position where he's like getting over on some, like, you know, people like rising up the card, kind of like you said. As far as the match, you know, Asia and Midnight, both kind of untrained wrestlers. Just one's kind of I think they're both kind of fitness models of some sort, or, you know, into fitness of some kind. So as much as they're probably both untrained, the match wasn't all that terrible. It wasn't much either, really, at the same time. But it's really just kind of getting over the Revolution being kind of a badass group that just can take out whoever they want to, except apparently Jim Duggan. But before the match, you know, Jerry Flynn throwing out another open challenge for the block. We've enjoyed the stuff in the block so far. Like you said, I think I kind of hope the one this week is a little shorter than maybe last week was. But yeah, as far as the match, you know, like I said, it could have been worse, but it really was just kind of put the Revolution over as badasses and kind of continue to push them kind of higher up the card. And I actually looked up the standards and practices thing while you were kind of talking there. It was really just about like, you know, like getting away with calling like Rhonda Singh fat, and like you said, the Ed Ferrara or Oklahoma stuff with the Bell's palsy and kind of Buzzkill being able to, you know, burn incense or like smoke weed on the TV or something like that. So just little things like that. But he was blaming standards and practices for him not being able to push the envelope. But the company saw it as, hey, you're not writing compelling television. It's not standards and practices' fault that the ratings are falling or whatever. So
yeah, like that's fucking dumb. Like, that's not going to turn around business. Sorry.
Yeah, Buzzkill ain't gonna do it, buddy.
Neither is like Roddy Piper calling Rhonda Singh fat. Like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. So after that, we see Larry Z walking backstage. He walks up to Mike Graham and he says, "The place, powers to be." I almost said "place to be" because I have it written as PTB.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, sorry. JT and Scott are looking for Larry Z, but he said powers to be are looking for him, and Larry's pissed because he wasn't able to play golf today. And then we go back to Piper, and he's saying, "Gotta wrestle Coneheads." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's so stupid. And then we have a commercial break, and then Tony's like, "We haven't had one of these in a while, but here's a Nitro party tape," and we meet Daphne Unger, who's she's very pale skin, dark hair, like a goth look, and she's all by herself at her Nitro party, and she's saying Dave DeFlair is totally cool. She rocks back and forth, and Tony and Bobby are like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And they're like, "That's not a party. That's just a one-person party." So we'll have to see if anything comes of that.
That's the best kind of party sometimes.
Exactly. Exactly, Logan. So match 7 is Roddy Piper versus Creative Control in an I Quit match, and Piper is the special ref. We see highlights of Piper being the special ref before. Piper comes out. Creative Control comes out. Piper has the mic, says he will show them a good time. It says, "You two coneheads, get inside here." He said, "Powers to be, I am the ref. Until the bell rings, you have to do as I say." He says he's going to pat them down. I have here that Piper looks like he could work for TSA the way he's patting them down. Like, touching their nether regions, and the crowd's loving it, and like they act like they're all offended. The other, like one of the Creative Control does it, the other one refuses to do it. Then they're threatened to be DQ'd before the match, which doesn't make sense. Piper checks him, and then Piper's talking to them and says the match is simple. There's 2 rules. Only way to win is by saying I quit. And then he kicks one of them in the nuts and grabs the other by his hand and says there are no rules. He's biting their hand and kicking the other Creative Control. This only lasts for a little bit as the numbers advantage, as we've seen in 2 segments back to back, comes over. And then like Creative Control does like this big ass knee drop where they like lift him up like the Spirit Squad used to do, but they drop him on their knee. And then like Creative Control, because they're fucking Nazi morons, yells at the cameraman to ask Roddy Piper to ask him to say I quit. The cameraman just like doesn't say anything, obviously. Then they hit another huge knee lift. We get loud boos right here. Creative Control then gets a chair out, and they're about to do a spike pile driver. And I'm like, yes, if this gets rid of Piper, please do it. But in runs Goldberg, who hits the worst jackhammer of Creative Control. He almost lost
exactly
him on the jackhammer, Logan. I was real nervous. I was like, someone's about to get dropped in their head. So, and then somehow Piper was able to get the belt off Creative, like a belt that holds the pants off Creative Control, and was choking you with it. That member says, I quit. I don't know which one it was. Neither does Tony. We're still trying to figure this out. And then like they're in the aisleway, and Piper yells for Goldberg, and Goldberg comes back, and he goes nose to nose. Piper raised Goldberg's hand, and then Goldberg says, we are even. So I'm going to stop there, Logan, because I want your thoughts on this match and this last little part with Goldberg and him going nose to nose. I have something I need to add.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the match was pretty nondescript other than Goldberg coming in. Like you said, he hits like the worst jackhammer ever, maybe only probably rivaled by the one that he hit on Undertaker in Saudi, where he almost killed him after he was concussed and all that.
Well, he was concussed.
Yeah. So maybe this is truly the worst because he was able-bodied and all that. But I do think whatever Creative Control member was kind of sandbagged him a little bit and never really got up for the move. So there's that. But yeah, Piper somehow wins the I quit, eventually raises Goldberg's hand and says that they're even. I don't really know what that meant, but and then before the match, I think it's kind of really low-key introduction for Daphne. It's kind of weird that they introduced her in like a Nitro party segment, so we'll see where she kind of comes in. But I'll just say, other than that, I'll just say fuck Mike Graham because he sucks.
Yes, he does. So I was reading that Observer that I was telling you about, and I guess obviously this doesn't happen, but the Piper was supposed to go heel eventually as a ref, and I wonder if this was going to be the thing that slowly kickstarted it. And Goldberg saying they were even is because like Piper was shielding him last week in the cage, because they did show that in the highlights for him being a ref, Logan. So that's what they said they're even about. I guess when Goldberg Piper stopped him getting his ass kicked. So there we go with that. But I think that might have been like a flashpoint part for it to be. So yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
I lost my notes. So we see Tony, Disco, and Lash backstage. Tony is saying we went too far. We're sorry about this. Tony says anything but the hair. Don't mess up the hair. And then they run his hands through his hair. And then they tar and feather Tony. And then Tony says, wait for my father. Finds out about this. And then we cut to the Nitro girls and Johnny and Vito. And Vito and Johnny are in their boxers. The Nitro girls keep cheating. Vito says, everything's going all in. My hat, my underwear, and winner take all. And then we cut to a commercial break, and we see Maestro find Symphony's shoe and says, "I'll find you." And then we see highlights of Dustin screwing over Jarrett since he's came back. So just a little, I do like how like we see like Tony Marinara's and all types of problems, and then we see Johnny the Bull and Vito just dicking around. So I do like how like we see like that's like nice and bookend. The Maestro and Symphony shoe thing, it's just like Maestro, it's leading to something for you that you're not gonna like, buddy. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, poor Maestro got no clue what's headed for him. So, but yeah, Disco and I almost called him Dash. Combine their names. Disco and Lash, like you said, Tar and Feather Marinara. That they mess up his pretty hair. His fucking hair is messed up now. And then Vito and Bull continuing to get swindled by the old Nitro girls. They're gonna end up with their fucking dingalings hanging out on Nitro. So get to see a little Mama Luke Dong action eventually, apparently. So maybe they should have sat closer together and cheated like the Nitro girls did. And then we really could have had a party.
Yeah, I mean that would have been. I mean, I wish I would have seen the Nitro girls naked. There were some cute ones, but nope. Just Vito's chrome dome with his chrome penis. So after we see the highlights of Dustin screwing over Jarrett, this leads to match 8 tonight, which is Dustin Rhodes versus Ming. And it's announced that Ming versus Norman Smiley for the hardcore title at Starrcade. Ming better fucking win. When Ming gets in the ring, Dustin's already out, and he throws the coat over Ming's head and starts punching Ming. It doesn't go well because Ming-Lin just gets angry and headbutts the turnbuckle. When Ming does that, Dustin jumps on Ming's back and tries to fight him, but Ming just shrugs him off. Ming Irish whips Dustin, and Dustin ducks under a clothesline and hits a bulldog on him. Ming gets up immediately and hits a sidekick and then starts beating down Dustin in the corner. Out comes Jeff Jarrett, and he backdrops Ming over the top. Dustin and Jarrett square off, and Dustin's beating down Jarrett. Outsiders run down and beat down Dustin. Ming comes in to help, but Jarrett hits him with the guitar, and then Ming's still standing there, and then Nash hits Ming with a big boot to finally take him down. Nash then hits the power bomb on Dustin. This is a real nothing match. It's just like Outsiders and Jarrett had to beat down Dustin. That was their way. They're doing a real good job of making Ming be a badass. We saw him take down Luger and Sting, then lose to fuckery to Brett, and he took a guitar shot tonight, and then the big boot, and he still didn't go down. And like this was a non-finish, so like they're obviously kind of protecting him.
Yeah, I won't say Ming's to the point where he could be like ever be like a main event or anything like that. But yeah, he could definitely
be upper mid card.
Yeah, he could definitely be in like a U.S. title picture and kind of hang around that area, and maybe contend for that and be a big contender. He's a badass. He has a finisher that's kind of over. The people pop huge for that Tongan death grip, despite the fact that it's really nothing. But he's a badass. He's a real life badass as well. But like you said, not much for the match. More to just continue the Jarrett and Rhodes, stuff that's been going on, and the Outsiders seem to be kind of paired up with Jarrett, at least somewhat for now. To kind of help him take out his enemies and stuff like that. But yeah, the match wasn't really anything. But yeah, Ming could, if they want to use him in the kind of United States title picture, and maybe every now and then get a world title shot or something like that, I could get along with that. He's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, like it's been very nice to see him like that, because like I watched the Starrcade 96 match. Faces of Fear versus the Outsiders, and that's a very nice match, an underrated feud. Did we watch that for Hidden Gem?
No, we did not. I think you probably watched that along with JT and Chad.
Yes, I did. Wrestling Warzone, because I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing with that. Yes, so that might be a Hidden Gem, Logan. So then we see Larry, and he's backstage with the Powers That Be. Powers That Be asks why he thinks Thunder sucks. Larry says Thunder is bad because you guys are putting it together. I love how they are telling me that Thunder sucks after me and Logan are having to sit through it for like 8 episodes. So we greatly appreciate that, guys, from the future. Larry says, like I said, Larry says Thunder is bad because you guys are putting it together. He said because there's no stars. And then Powers to Be says all the stars will be on Thunder this week. Powers to Be says they may replace announcers because Larry sucks. Larry says announcers are the only part of the show that makes sense. I wouldn't go that far, Larry. Larry says he doesn't need the job. He won't be one to jump through his hoops like the hoop jerk over here, and like talking about Kurt Hennig and Shane. Kurt takes offense to that. Place to be. Powers to Be makes a match with Kurt Hennig tonight. If Larry loses, he's fired. Larry says if he wins, Powers to Be is gone. Since they're making this match now, Logan, if I was a betting man, I would put all my money in the world on Kurt Hennig. No way in hell they're getting rid of Powers to Be like this. So we have a commercial break, and then we see candles and a dove and someone sitting there. And Tony tells us it's the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea, and he will debut on this week's Thunder. I guess that means he's the A-star coming on Thunder this week, Logan. So we have the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea showing up. Can't wait for that. I can't believe they buried Thunder like that. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, it's basically telling all your fans that watch Thunder, go fuck yourself. You wasted your time. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, you might as well cancel the show at this point and just put all your horses into that 3-hour Nitro every week and just say fuck Thunder. Yeah, because you're basically telling, they're basically telling your fans, like you said, that they're wasting their time every Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it was on at this point. I know it used to be Thursdays, but I'm not sure.
I think Wednesdays.
Okay. I know SmackDown has started by now, so I wasn't sure if they kind of moved to kind of avoid losing even more fans to that. So, but yeah, that's a pretty brutal burial of yourself, which is probably never really a good idea. But we do get the arrival of Mr. The artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea. So definitely looking forward to seeing him come in. Not. But we'll see how.
Said no one ever.
Yeah, I would say we'll see how he fares. Justin Rossero's favorite wrestler from WCW, of course, Prince Iaukea.
He really does suck. I think I liked him as a kid because I was like, babyface, cheer. But having to rewatch that stuff back, I was like, that's terrible.
So it's also kind of not his fault. He got thrust into a position where he was nowhere near prepared for. So I'm gonna chalk that one up to WCW.
Yeah, they just wanted to do with The Rock and everything. So the match 9, which is Kurt Hennig versus Larry Zbyszko. If Kurt wins, Larry is gone. If Larry wins, Powers to Be is gone. So we get a loud Larry chants to hear off. And we are told that Powers to Be blew off Tenay's request for a meeting, which they were hyping up all during Thunder that he was having a meeting on Friday with the Powers to Be, and they blew him off. Kurt lunged at Larry, and Larry dodged it, and he hits an arm drag and a slam. Larry gets a front chancery. Thanks, Tony, for calling that out for me. So I never would have got that. And then Kurt pushes him into a corner for the break. Kurt punches Larry. Larry then kicks Kurt and hits a swinging net breaker. Larry then Irish whips Kurt into the ref. Are we shocked that it's one already? And then Kurt kicks Larry in the gut, and he's like pulling on Larry's hair, which I thought would be funny if his hair plugs came out, but that's not the case. Kurt then chops Larry. And
hey, I don't have hair plugs.
I like that. The ref is still down. Kurt hits his snapmare that we know about, and then like the snap net breaker that he did when he was Mr. Perfect. Kurt's just beating down Larry right now. Kurt then goes for the perfect plex, but Larry reverses and DDTs Kurt and then puts him like in a chokehold. Shane comes in and punches Larry, and they both beat down Larry. Kurt's pinning Larry, and Shane goes and tries to wake up the ref. Out comes Arn, who beats down Kurt and Shane with a baseball bat. Arn wakes up ref and puts Larry on Kurt, and Larry beats Kurt. I was shocked, Logan. But then we had the dusty finish as Creative Control comes down and shows them just where Arn came in, but nothing else. And Charles Robinson reverses the decision. Arn and Larry beat down Creative Control after this, so Larry loses his job. I guess Arn and Larry are going to tag together. Who knows? Then we see Scott, Chris Benoit. This is what it feels like. We see Chris Benoit walking backstage, and we see the Outsiders walking, and Scott has a ladder, and that leads us to a commercial break. This was a real nothing match, but the crowd was kind of hot for it. Like they still love Larry for him standing up versus the NWO, which I think is pretty incredible. I'm interested to see where it goes with Arn because I wasn't watching at this time, so like I have no recollection of any of this. So this is like brand new to me. Like I read the results and everything like years and years ago, and you forget stuff, but like it's nice seeing all like the intricate details and shit. So it'll either be dropped or we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Obviously, I've never seen much of this era at all outside of a few pay-per-views. So I'm kind of with you on that one. But yeah, Arn comes out and kind of makes a save, takes out old Shane and Kurt to give Larry the win, seemingly. But yeah, the old powers that be and creative control kind of put the screws to old Larry. So he's seemingly fired. We'll see if that kind of holds up or if he's back quickly or if there's legal action involved or blah, 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 or whatever. So, but yeah, pretty nothing match. But like you said, the fans, despite the fact that I feel like pretty much anybody outside of Sean Kidd hates Larry Zbyszko, for some reason, this crowd tonight and other crowds in the last few weeks seem to be pretty behind old Larry Zbyszko. So maybe he does have some cred with that, going against the NWO run. So, but yeah, the crowd is into it.
I think it has to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like Tony and Bobby even bring it up on commentary. And then like, I love how after this, I can't remember what match it is. They're like, who's going to commentate Thunder? And Bobby goes, I'm busy. Just immediately says, I'm busy. I'm busy that day. Like he's like, I'm not going to do it. So I'm interested to see who will be the commentator. We'll find out in the next episode when we find out. So we have the commercial break. And then we see Lash, Disco, and Tony. They say we need a garnish. Lash pulls out a apple like he's fucking Johnny Appleseed, and they shove it in Tony's mouth. And we see the card playing, and we have stuff hidden in front of Vito, but it insinuates that he's naked. Johnny says we got to go, and they try to leave, but the Nitro girls take their clothes. And then we go to match 10 tonight, which is Chris Benoit versus Kevin Nash, which is something I never thought happened outside of that uncensored 97 triple four-way match. We see highlights of Benoit coming off the cage to win the triple threat tag match last week. That was in the cage, might I add. Out comes Benoit, out comes Nash, and then Hall comes out with the ladder. Hall has the ladder set up, and he gets on commentary. Tony says, you are the U.S. champ, and Hall says, thanks for reminding me. And then with this match, we go back and forth between commentary and this, so I'll do my best. Nash is beating down Benoit with punches in the corner. Benoit reverses a slam and starts chopping Nash in the corner. We get a cool camera angle over Hall's shoulder where the cameraman like climbed the other side of the ladder and was shooting like Hall's point of view from watching the match, which I thought was very cool, which we don't really see a lot, but it was just a very cool camera angle. And we see how Benoit is working over Nash's leg. Nash then actually like kicks Benoit out of the ring, and Benoit takes a hell of a bump where like they say the back of his the back hits the ring. I almost said the back of his back right there. And then Nash slams Benoit's head on the steps. I know, right? That's what it felt like when I caught myself.
Leg out of his leg.
Nash is the back of his back. Nash chokes Benoit with his foot. Nash throws Benoit in the ring, and then he hits a side suplex and gets two. Benoit is able to get up and drop kicks Nash's leg, and then drop kicks him again to take him down. Benoit's now working over the leg. Bobby keeps making mistakes on the announcing team, and Scott straight up says, Bobby, give me half of what you were drinking, because it's like he kept making mistakes, and he's like, what are you talking? Like, even Scott's like calling him out on it. And like, it's always been insinuated that like Bobby was drunk doing commentary. So I guess like this is like Scott feeding into it a little bit. Benoit keeps working the leg. Benoit runs into a boot, and then Nash hits a clothesline. Nash drops the strap and goes to powerbomb Benoit, but Benoit reverses to a crossface, which I thought was very slick. And then this makes Hall hit the ref with the ladder. Then he slides the ladder in the ring. Benoit starts beating down Hall, and then Benoit drop kicks the ladder in Nash's face. And Benoit gets on the ladder, and I thought we were going to see the diving headbutt onto Nash, but Hall gets up and he hits a crossbody block on Hall, which I thought was nice. But this allows Nash to beat down Benoit. Then Nash is about to powerbomb Benoit onto the ladder, but Nash powerbombs Benoit, and then Hall picks up Benoit to outsider edge him on the ladder, but Sid runs down for the save. And actually, like, the way they set this up nice, where like Crispin was like dangling over the ropes, and Sid just comes and grabs him for the save. And then we see DDP arriving to the building. We haven't seen him since Mayhem. And then we see Vito and Johnny the Bull walking to the ring. So a very hot match, Logan. Of course, it ends in fuckery, but Nash and Benoit did a nice big man, small man match, in my opinion. Nash is very good at those, because I remember the Rey Mysterio matches being a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I think if Nash is in there with somebody that can, you know, bump around for him and you know, is a pretty good worker. You know, his best matches were obviously with guys like Brett and Sean, you know, and his other buddies. You know, he has some good matches with Hall as well. But you know, when he's in there with somebody that can kind of go, he can play off of them pretty well and sell for them and stuff like that. So I think Benoit's kind of a perfect guy for him, like you kind of said. Benoit takes an absolutely gnarly bump on the hardest part of the ring at one point. I think he's like going for like a slingshot and gets big booted and kind of falls down and just lands real hard on the apron.
That's when his back hit, when he hit the back of the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the back of the back. But like you said, I think it was a solid enough match. But again, the Russification of everything. The interference has to come in at some point. You could have seen it coming a million miles away with him sitting on the ladder the whole time. It was going to happen at some point. It was just a matter of when. It happened. And yes, Sid seems to be everybody's buddy now. He always kind of stood out as a loner for the longest time. And, you know, I feel like the outsiders were trying to recruit him for the longest time before Mayhem. And he never would kind of join up with them. But he seems to kind of be everybody's buddy now, despite the fact that I feel like he's always kind of stood out as somebody that was kind of his own man. So very weird.
Yeah, it like that's what I brought up, is like how all the baby faces are like friends, and like we see like Sid clapping like a lunatic later on when he's trying to hype up Goldberg, and like he's like I don't know, it's just something I didn't think I would enjoy, but I really enjoy it, Logan.
Yeah, for sure, without a doubt.
So let me see a Mayhem holiday sweepstakes where I guess the music CD was not selling. They were packaging up with the video game. And then we have Mean Gene with Sting. Mean Gene asked about Liz. Sting says he has his doubts, and for most of his career, he's always been ahead of Lex, and a step ahead of Lex, and he still is. And he says outsiders don't sing it, bring it, and does the Hall toothpick. So making fun of the outsiders and Hall. And then we see Vito and Johnny make their way to the ring. Vito says he's sick and tired of people and tired of the yuts of who they've been chasing week after week when he hasn't done none of the chasing. He said this week they made fools of them and the boss. Vito calls out Lash and Disco, calls them John Travolta wannabes. And then Disco's music hits, but out comes the twins from the previous week. And Vito says, we want those bums. And Johnny says, my mother told me to never hit abroad, but tonight I'm going to make an exception. Vito says they stink and they never wanted to sleep with them, which obviously they did. Then Lash and Disco come from behind and beat them down. And then Tony comes down, tarred and feather, and beats them down with a steel pipe. Vito and Johnny beat down Lash and Disco and Lash. They roll them out of the ring and they carry them away. And will they swim with the fishes tonight, Logan? We'll find out. And then we see Maestro still looking for Symphony. And then to close out the Disco and Lash thing, we have a commercial break, and then we come back. Johnny the Bull and Vito put Disco and Lash in the car, but then like Tony Marinero like falls down, but like it's like he missed his cue. So like it's just very odd how they do it, but they go and check on him, and this allows Disco and Lash to take the car and they drive off, so they stay one step ahead of those idiots. So while I take a sip of water, Logan, tell me what you thought of all that, because a lot happened, and all of it was like 7 minutes, maybe max, guys.
Yeah, just absolute chaos, continuous stuff over and over and over again. But most of it is, the Mamalukes and the Lash and Disco team, kind of going back and forth. It's incredible that the whole night Marinara can't get out of the like single string that they have him tied up by. But somehow after he's been tarred and feathered and all that, he escapes. Kind of helps his boys out, and then, like you said, they're absolute idiots, and 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 Lash and Disco escape with their getaway car. So just absolute morons, but incredibly entertaining at the same time. So I have a ton of time for these guys. So give them as many segments as possible because it seems to always be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I really enjoy them a lot. I'm interested to see where it goes. They still haven't got their official names, but they have like Italian mafia music now when they came out, which
Yeah.
I thought was funny. And then storyline alert. I knew this because we see Maestro walking backstage, but he wanders into the block, and they have this weird filter of the block like it's a fucking horror movie, Logan, which
Yeah.
is something they didn't need to add. This is match 11. Like Maestro's like, what's going on? And Jerry Flynn's like, oh, you're here. So he starts fighting. It's so dark I can literally barely see the Flynn's kicks. Maestro gets a hope spot in there with some punches and kicks, but then Flynn literally kicks the shit out of him with like a back kick, and it's over. And then Flynn goes to leave the block, but he opens the door, and David Flair's there, and he hits him with the crowbar. And then David's still holding Symphony and tells her to shut up. And then we have Mean Gene with Nick Patrick. And Nick Patrick said he's drawing the line, unlike he did in Starrcade 97. He says he's barring everyone from ringside because of everyone interfering. You have to have official manager papers to be able to be at ringside. So we're going to see this. And we see Sting walking backstage with Liz. She has her manager papers, and they've been notarized. So she was kind of notary, Logan. I'm proud of her. And then we see DDP lacing up his boots, and we have a commercial break. So that block match, pretty quick compared to everything else, right?
Oh yeah, just absolutely gets his ass kicked. I think that's where we were talking about what kind of amount of matches we had going in. I think that's where we got kind of thrown off because I didn't even really count that as a match because it kind of is pretty quickly over. And Flair obviously comes in after it's over and cracks Flynn over the head with the crowbar. But yeah, interesting little Nick Patrick cameo there. Obviously, he's a ref pretty much every week, but we don't. Obviously, he was super involved in like when the NWO was first really hot. He was kind of their special handpicked referee. But interesting to see him get a little mic time there. But yeah, they have to have a legal reason to be at ringside for any reason. So. And yeah, DDP lacing up his boots for his big match. That we'll see how it goes when he gets out there. But yeah, the block match was pretty short. And Maestro again just continues to get his ass kicked. But he's a pretty good seller, so it's a good position for him, I would say.
Yeah, like he's a very good seller. Like he does a good job, and it's not like that's like a main event like gimmick,
yeah.
so it's fine. It's like whatever. So come back from commercial. We have match 12 tonight. Guys, we still got 3 more matches after this. And it's Scott Hall versus Sting. Scott Hall comes out, and so does Nash. Nash gets on commentary and says, big win tonight. And he shows what a great big man can do when he beats up a mediocre little man all the time, which I thought was funny. And we already know Nash has his manager papers because when he got it a couple weeks ago when he was like the Grand Wizard and everything. And we see that Liz has her manager paper. Nick Patrick actually looks at it, and it's legal for her to be there. And then Hall hits Sting with the toothpick, and it's on. And then Sting kicks and punches Hall. Sting hits the atomic drop, and then a clothesline. Then they go outside the ring, and they make their way over to the commentary table. And Nash starts choking Sting with the announcer's headset cord. And Nick sees this and kicks Nash out instead of calling for a DQ. This allows Scott Hall to continue beating down Sting. And he throws Sting in the ring. He's choking Sting and then puts on the abdominal stretch. And Hall's holding the ropes, but the ref finds it and breaks it. Sting then hip tosses Hall and misses an elbow. Hall covers for 2. Hall then puts Sting in a sleeper hold, but the crowd rallies Sting and hits a belly to back suplex to break up the sleeper. They're both still out. Hall covers Sting for a 2 count. Sting then blocks a punch and starts pounding on Hall. And they're in the corner now. And Sting does 5 punches in the corner, but Hall pushes him off. And then Sting runs up again, and Hall pushes him off again after 5. Sting runs up a third time, is able to get all 10 punches. And he winds up exaggeration for the last punch and hits him. And after this, Sting pins Hall and gets a 2. Then Hall eye pokes Sting and does the fall away slam. While Sting is down, Liz gets on the apron, and Hall walks over and tells her to suck it. She then sprays Hall with like the mace, and then Sting then hits a 2 stinger splashes, and then he puts on the Scorpion Deathlock, and Hall taps. Quite the match, Logan. Not my match of the night, but very good. I was shocked they had Hall losing to Sting here. I know it's Sting, but Hall has a big match versus Benoit. And if you're looking at like the card, it's like Hall is like above Sting on the card right now. So I'm just kind of shocked with that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And you know I'm saying that I'm shocked like that because you know me, I'm a big Sting fan.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I was shocked to see him lose at least cleanly. I mean, obviously there was some chicanery around towards the end of the match, but it kind of favored Hall, so it didn't really go against him per se. But yeah, it was surprising to see him kind of tap kind of cleanly. It would be nice to see a match eventually at some point end cleanly and not necessarily have a ton of interference, because it seems like most every match on this card either had some kind of weapon shot to kind of end the match or somebody interfere throughout. So it would be nice to see one match kind of get a natural ending. But yeah, solid match.
Highly unlikely, Jess.
Highly unlikely. But this was a solid match. I would like to see these guys maybe get a pay-per-view spot at some point, because I think they could have a banger. Because I think this one had banger potential, but obviously being on TV and having the Russo-ness of it all being involved wasn't going to ever happen.
Yeah, it's I just want like we had like a couple matches that ended clean tonight, and then it's just like, nope, rest of them are non-clean, guys, which we'll get to later. We see David Flair dragging Symphony to the ring, and then we see DDP walking to the ring too. Get a commercial break. David Flair comes out. Tony reminds us that the crowbar and a pole match at Starrcade between David Flair and DDP should be fucking David Flair and Maestro, but that's just me. David drags out Symphony and gets on the mic and says, "Hey, Maestro, you have 10 seconds to claim your bride." And then he screams, "Shut up," at her. DDP music hits. He runs down. David Flair swings the crowbar, and DDP drops him with a diamond cutter. DDP says, "Hey, powers that be, I got your Starrcade match right here," and points to his dick, because that's what everyone does. DDP says rumors are crazy. He brings up how the rumor of how he wanted to leave WCW and go to WWF. He said the rumors... He says, "Don't believe the rumors." He says, "I go with the people who brought me to the dance," aka saying he's staying with WCW. But Logan, that was a real rumor. He reached out to Big Show and Ray Traylor about getting him over there, but they said they wouldn't pay him what he makes in WCW, so that's why he didn't leave. But then like he drops this weird thing if you're saying people close to him haven't been loyal. DDP says he trusts no one and says he's out for number 1. He listens powers that be, get sit out here and let's blow this mother out. Very interesting, like a little shooty, a lot shooty, and like work shooty there, which is a Vince Russo hallmark. But it's interesting to see DDP back because he's only been here in spots, Logan. So I have to see if he sticks around for a little bit.
Yeah, and
so this brings us to.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, okay. Yeah. DDP's always been one of my favorites in like some of my previous WCW watches. So I expected there to be more of him kind of in this period. So it's good to kind of see him come back. Yeah, like you said, the promo was kind of a little work shooty a little bit, or even maybe shooty. But yeah, good to see him back. And I'd like to see him get involved, because he, like I said, he's always been kind of one of my favorites from WCW.
Yeah, besides being kind of corny, like, let's blow this mother out. It's like,
yeah,
I like it better when he's not trying to be like on the room type deal. Like, just let him be like the people's champ instead of like whatever the fuck this is with like the whap 'em slap. Remember when we saw him before? He tried to like shoehorn in like 20 sayings, and
Yeah,
all of them kind of suck. Like,
jokes.
yeah, just horrible. Like I said, this brings us to match 13 with DDP and Sid. Collar and elbow tie up, and then Sid pushes him off. Tony says that the tag team match between Creative Control and Harlem Heat has been changed to a 6-person tag match with Kurt Hennig and Midnight being added. The tag belts are still on the line. I hate how they tell us like that Starrcade matches are happening during other matches. It's so stupid. So Sid clotheslines DDP over the top rope. Sid follows him outside, and he's beating DDP around the ring. Sid rolls DDP back in the ring. DDP tries a hip toss, but Sid throws him instead. DDP gets up and hits a net breaker and gets 2. Then he gets on the top rope and hits a clothesline off the top, which I thought was very nice. Sid then kicks DDP into, guess what, a ref. And then Sid powerbombs DDP. I know, I was shocked. Sid asks the crowd for one more. Nash comes down, starts beating down Sid. Hall is beating down Sid as well. Chris Benoit runs down, starts beating down Hall. And then they trade off, and he's beating down Nash. Jarrett then runs down and attacks Sid and Benoit. This brings out Bret Hart, who runs down and attacks Jarrett. He fights the Outsiders too. It's 3-on-3. Security runs down. DDP just walks off. You can see him just walking off in the back.
I noticed that.
Well, like I said, like it brought up what I said earlier. It's like these guys are the main event, and then it's like Sting, DDP, Luger, who are like just below it, and like I guess don't have like a dog in this fight. So very interesting. So then Nick Patrick grabs the mic and says, "Screw this. We haven't had control all night." For some reason, Nick Patrick can make matches and said the main event is the lumberjack match, and all the refs are leaving, and so is security. So everyone leaves, so everyone just keeps fighting. We have a commercial break, and we see Goldberg starts running down as we see Creative Control is joined in on the beatdowns as well. Goldberg actually gets on the ring apron and flips into the ring. It was pretty awesome. It was like a superhero entrance slogan, like you know, like how they called it. That's what it reminded me of. It was pretty sweet. And then Roddy Piper's music hits because we haven't seen enough of him tonight, and he comes down and he's the ref for our main event, match 14. Jeff Jarrett versus Goldberg in a lumberjack match with Roddy Piper as special ref. Piper tells everyone to get out of the ring and makes them all lumberjacks. Jarrett tries to walk off because he's in the aisle, but some Green Bay Packers linemen show up and force him back in the ring. Then Dustin Rhodes runs in and he attacks Jeff and throws him in the ring. Goldberg hits a nice body block on Jeff and pins him and gets a 2. Jarrett tries a sunset flip, but Goldberg just punches him and then tries to pin him again and gets 2. Goldberg straight up beating down Jeff in the corner. And then he kills Jarrett with his high octane power slam that also gets 2. Jarrett rolls out of the ring and forgets that the baby faces are there, and they beat him down and throw him back in the ring. Goldberg gets his arm breaker, and Jarrett rolls out of the ring to the baby faces again, and they beat the shit out of him and then rolls him back in. Goldberg goes outside and starts fighting the heel lumberjacks, which just shows how he's a maniac. Then everyone starts fighting. Jarrett and Goldberg are in the ring, and Jarrett just brains Goldberg with a chair. So at least we know Goldberg has at least 2 concussions, Logan. And then he yells at Piper, who was trying to break up the fighting in the ring. Jarrett goes to pin Goldberg, and this gets 2. Jarrett is actually getting some offense on Goldberg, hitting him with punches and kicks, and he hits a cross body and gets 2. Jarrett gets a sleeper hold on Goldberg, and Goldberg then goes down, but Goldberg fights off and then slams Jarrett. Both get up before the 10 count. Then they both run into each other on a shoulder block, and they start the 10 count again, which I thought was weird because we just had one. Jarrett and Piper starts arguing. Goldberg rolls up Jarrett after this. Goldberg misses a punch and actually hits a sidekick that will end up killing Bret Hart in a couple weeks. It's the same exact sidekick, Logan. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah. I made note of it for sure.
I was like, fuck, that's what brains fucking Hart. Goldberg then goes to spear Jarrett, but Nash grabs his leg. So Goldberg drops out of the ring and starts fighting the heels, and the heels beat up Goldberg. While this is happening, Jeff Jarrett's in the ring, and we can sort of see Dustin Rhodes getting the stroke put on him. You just see it in the background. It's just pandemonium. But then Hart slides in and hits Jeff Jarrett with the world title. Goldberg gets in the ring and spears Jarrett, and Jack hammers him. He doesn't almost drop him this time, and it's over. And this brings it into, honestly, Logan, probably the best Nitro we've seen. which
Yeah, absolutely.
this is our ninth night. This is our like eighth Nitro. So this is our best Nitro, and it was very good. We're starting to care about these people. I'm interested to see how Russo fucks it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. But yeah, just 2 matches at the end. You feel bad for DDP. He kind of gets caught in all the shenanigans with all these other people. Kind of like you said, that the Sting Luger DDP kind of camp is just kind of aimless and kind of out there by themselves. At least even Luger and Sting are kind of involved with each other. So, maybe you could have held DDP off a little bit further to maybe Starrcade just to kind of leave him kind of out there. Kind of, make that his big return and all that, because this put him in that match seemed kind of pointless. But it all leads to a bunch of people interfering, which leads to the lumberjack match being made for the main event, and it's just pure chaos, which works really well for the match, makes it super entertaining. Anytime Jarrett tries to leave, he immediately gets thrown back in, gets roughed up a little bit before he goes back in as well. But all the lumberjack ends up brawling at one point. Kind of gives Jarrett an opening to kind of take over a little bit. And then, like you said, I made the same note that Goldberg hits the kick that ends Bret Hart's career in a couple of weeks, and then obviously finishes him with the spear and jackhammer. So, really entertaining way to end the broadcast. Obviously, maybe not the best match, but if it's at least entertaining and has the crowd hyped up, I'd say that's a win in this world.
Yeah, it was like the crowd was super hot, especially for that main event. It was chaotic and like a good chaotic, not like a shitty chaotic we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to get kind of hyped for Starrcade. We still got a Thunder, which is promising stars, and then we have the Go Home Nitro and the Go Home Thunder. So we got 3 shows before Starrcade, and it's shaping up to be kind of decent. I'm interested to see how some things happen because I know what the final result is at Starrcade on some matches. So we got 3 episodes to figure that out. But before we get out of there, Logan, let's run over some stats. We had 14 matches, 4 clean finishes, 10 non-clean non-finishes, 0 pole matches tonight. We're still at 3 pole matches overall, 6 gimmick matches tonight at 46. That brings us to 46 gimmick matches overall. Bring us to 9 guitar shots overall. 67 different things happened. 1 title change tonight, and that was the IWGP heavyweight, junior heavyweight title. We're now at 18 title changes. What was your most absurd tonight?
They're really, as far as
absurd, it really wasn't much, right?
Yeah, it wasn't as much. Not as much a slam dunk as usual. Maybe somebody like, I mean, and we haven't hated him so far, but maybe somebody like the Maestro getting as much TV time as he did, maybe might be the most absurd. But like I said, as far as him being on Thunder and stuff like that, he's been somebody we've enjoyed. So that'd be one of the weaker, most absurd. But maybe him getting like 5 or 6 segments of him just like aimlessly running around. Maybe that's what I would go with. Or maybe like Oklahoma being in a match, but one of those 2, something like that.
Yeah, but the Oklahoma thing was so quick. At least Oklahoma was entertaining with like some of the stuff, and that shows how good this Nitro was. Or we have brain rot. So yeah. I don't know. We shall see.
Probably that more likely.
Yeah. For what was good, I got most of the show. Anything you like to add specifically?
Yeah, just the last couple of segments with the the DDP match that led into the main event, just the chaos and all that kind of led to the hot finish there.
Yeah, and what was bad? I guess it's Maestro getting 6 segments.
Yeah, nothing was terrible. Like I said, even the Nitro girls had somebody entertaining to play off of, so. Not much was bad this time, I'll say, or it just wasn't all-time horrible like it has been, I guess.
Well, you notice who hasn't been on Nitro recently who's been better, and that's Buff.
That's true.
So maybe that's cause. And for the first time, Logan, I'm going to say we're not smarter than Vince Russo's WCW. It took us 16 episodes.
Yeah. I think we're at least on par with him, maybe. But yeah. This is definitely the closest to not being smarter than him that we've probably been. So I'll give us some benefit and say we're kind of level this time. But I'd say we're kind of level smartness with him.
Yeah, I'm shocked, but that brings us an end to episode 16 of Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? For Scott Shufflet, he is Logan Crossland. Thank you guys so much. See you in 2 weeks.
Tina's what I see. A little bit of Sandra in the sun. A little bit of Mary all night long. A little bit of Jessica, here I am. Mambo number 5.